Hi, Erik Linask here in the TMC newsroom at IT Expo East 2011 in Miami. I've got a chance now to talk to Quentin Dible from FaxBack here in the newsroom. Quentin, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, it's good to be here.
It's been a really exciting IT Expo so far. A lot of great conference sessions, a lot of great vendors on the exhibit hall floor, a lot of great speakers and presentations. One of the things that I'm noticing in general, and there were several sessions here that touched on it as well, but something I've seen over the last, say, 6 months, much more so than the previous 18 to 24 months, there's a lot of activity and a lot of interest and a lot of conversation around fax.
There is. There's, definitely it's been building over the last 6 months, as you said. And one of the big pushes for that is as people continue to migrate to VoIP, they're really still dependent upon the fax machine. And there's been some struggles connecting the fax machines to VoIP, especially in the area with reliability. So we've been working with AudioCodes, we're a big partner with AudioCodes, to develop a special ATA that allows them to hook the fax machine up to various back-end systems in a reliable, secure manner. And this has really made the business world extremely excited because they can now move to VoIP much more effectively, continue to utilize their dedicated fax service providers, connect the fax machines to their fax servers, and even directly to their VoIP systems, which much better reliability. So it's just been a huge push to make that fax machine that people still need to work much better.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about connecting to some of those systems, can you get a little more into that?
Sure. Basically, it's a fax ATA that instead of using SIP T38 to talk across the network, we actually have embedded in the AudioCodes ATA some new technology that uses HTTPS as a fax platform to communicate. It's much easier to go through firewalls. We can encrypt it with SSL, and we get the reliability that we need, even over satellite connections, cellular connections, and things like that too. So especially for a lot of vertical niches like oil and gas construction sites where they are dependent upon cellular data links, they still use the fax machine a lot, they can now keep the fax machine and make it work flawlessly from point to point.
So are you talking about standalone fax machines or other devices as well?
As long as it has an analog fax connection like MFPs, they can still use that too. But it is primarily the fax machine or the MFP that is basically the easy type of scanner, because people know how to use a fax machine and they're very dominant still in the business space. Even though a lot of people are moving to email to fax for inbound faxes, people still need to signatures, quotes and things like that they need to scan in. The fax machine is still the preferred device for that.
Why have you chosen to work with AudioCodes?
It's really because the quality of their media gateways. We've been using their larger scale gateways on the back end for a while, and have really found that their ATA was the ideal platform for us to launch this on. It had the reliability, it could scale easily to 2 ports, and it just had all the technology that we really needed to embed our code in there.
So as companies are deploying voice over IP and unified communication solutions, is fax part of that initial conversation, or are people looking at it more as an afterthought?
They tend to think about it as an afterthought, but they really realize that it has to be there. They quickly all get excited about moving to VoIP, and then suddenly like, oh, what about fax? And then they realize, well, how do we make it work? And then they run into, well, we can't, or it's not reliable, so I've got to keep analog phone lines for fax, or I've got to keep this, other connection for fax. So it's a core business communication that, does get easily overlooked. But like you said at the start, the last 6 months, people are much more visible to say, I can't leave fax out. I've got to make sure when I do a VoIP transition that I'm making sure the fax gets moved along with it.
Mm-hmm. So who's your target audience?
Most of the target audiences are really just the businesses, from small to medium and even into the big enterprise space. A lot of these businesses are connecting to hosted provider connectivity, and that's where they want to connect the fax machines to. Even in the large-scale enterprise space where you have remote offices, they all want to connect to the corporate central location, so they're coming in over internet or over long-haul link. So those are ideal architectures too that businesses are looking to use.
What do you see coming up in the, say the next year for the fax industry?
Definitely just more wide-scale adoption of this new technology. You know, we're getting some extremely positive pickup. We already have a lot of businesses online, and we have, you know, thousands of ATAs basically in the field and being used for it right now.
So certainly working with audio codes, that helps on the interop side with multiple different vendors. What about partnering with unified communications providers?
We're starting to talk to a lot of those, and they're looking to adopt it too. So there's a lot of traction there.
So I imagine that's going to help in the answering the question I asked earlier. Fax won't be as much of an afterthought if it's part of that integrated UC package.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, I certainly wish you luck in that approach.
All right.
I can't wait to see what happens next. We've been talking here at IT Expo East in Miami with Quentin Dible from FaxBack. Quentin, thanks again for joining me.
All right, thank you very much.